Welcome to the USD 495 Super Chat, the podcast that takes you on a journey through USD 495 Fort Larned, and we're here to celebrate the successes of our students and staff, explore some of our programs and partnerships, and keep you informed about the upcoming events. And I'm Bryce Watts, your host and superintendent of USD 495, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Adam Apley, who has been recognized as our district staff member of the month for the month of October. So Adam is not only dedicated in the classroom, but also brings a little bit of a real-world experience to our classroom, making it kind of a unique impact on our students. So we're excited to hear about his approach to teaching, his past career journey, and vision, for the future of his program. So welcome, Adam. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations, I guess, on first and foremost on being the October District Staff Member of the Month.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So first of all, being named District Staff Member of the Month, can you share a little bit what that recognition meant to you a little bit, I guess, personally?
Well, it came as quite a shock. I was not expecting that at all, and it is a very big honor, and I'm glad that I got it. And I didn't really realize how that was done, and then once I did, then it kind of sunk in a little more, and it was a pretty awesome experience to be able to be honored as that.
Yeah, so our district staff member of the month, each one of our buildings has a building staff member of the month that's voted on by students and staff inside those attendance centers. But then for the district staff member of the month, we have an outside group of community members that looks at those different nominations and selects, and they're able to pick. So it is a huge honor to be named that district staff member of the month. Before you joined a classroom and started teaching here at Larned High School, you spent some years in what I guess we could context as industry outside of the school setting. So, what inspired you to make that shift to teaching the education ranks and doing that?
Well, I heard about the job opportunity, and at the time I was kind of looking to change things up. And the biggest thing was my own son, because at my previous employment, I worked a lot of long hours. And then when I found out about the school deal, I thought, he's starting school, and this would be the prime way to be able to spend as much time as I could with him. And I thought teaching, I teach people stuff all the time at work, and can't be much different with teaching kids. So I jumped in and applied and got hired, and here I am starting my third year.
Yeah. So, switching from industry to education, obviously, there's going to be some things that are big shifts, big changes. In that first year, and like you said, you're in your third year now. In that first year, can you think, what were some major surprises or adjustments in that first year of teaching that you're like, woo, this is a little bit different than being in industry?
Well, the biggest thing is I didn't think it'd be that hard to be a teacher. But then, because it's when I went through school, I looked at everything in a different light. And then when you are the teacher teaching the students, you see everything in a different way. And yeah, it's not as easy as most teachers make it seem when you are going through school. And I had to just learn. Well, I had to learn everything. I had to learn a lot. It's different in talking to students than in talking to adults. And it's been a journey. And I feel like I've been picking it up, and each year has gotten easier, and it is more enjoyment. And I'm glad I'm still doing it.
Especially being in the career and tech ed field. So that's a little, coming from industry does give you a different perspective on and that. So do you feel that background in industry is giving you a unique advantage in the content area that you teach and what you can bring into the classroom?
I do, because I have some real world experience, and I'm a big storyteller, especially in my classrooms, and I can relate something back to what we're talking about, what someone's doing, whether they're maybe making a small mistake or something a little dangerous. I can have a real life story that goes hand in hand, and then it gives more of an impact, and I think can help affect the kids. in a positive way.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think just being able to present those real world, application
Yes.
type things to it. So I would assume, especially to teach some of our middle school students, and then as you work your way up into some of our high school students, I would assume the first time students get into a welding booth and the first time they start to try to weld or do some of those things might be a little bit intimidating for some of the beginners. What are some of the ways that you help students get comfortable at the beginning stages of learning something that is probably completely new for them?
Right. Well, the biggest step is talking about safety and ensuring them that if they wear all the proper stuff, they're not going to get burnt. 'Cause, I mean, welding is something, obviously, extreme temperatures, and there's always a risk. But explaining why we wear what we wear, why we have a welding helmet, and then when they put all the gear on, they remember that, and then they have a little more confidence in that they're not going to get hurt. Because, I mean, I think that's the biggest fear, especially with younger kids, is they know if you're welding, you're melting metal, and it can burn you. But once they realize that you can be safe in doing so, then that gives them the confidence to jump in and try it.
And welding is extremely a skill based technique and practice. Get better and stuff like that. So learning those. Have you learned some specific little knacks or something that has been able to get students to figure that out quicker than some other things?
Yeah, like when I started out, like I would explain things kind of the way I learned and the way I saw. And then after watching kids sometimes struggle, even just striking an arc, I've realized that sometimes it's one of those things that you supervise them, give them guidance, but let them figure it out on their own a bit, because sometimes that helps the kids to actually build confidence again. And that's a big thing with welding, is having the confidence. And also, the longer that they practice, the better they get. So that's just a big thing, the confidence booster, and kind of get them to be a little bit self-motivated, but with, of course, guidance and supervision.
Yeah. So, as we talked about, and welding is, which is predominantly what you teach, and then some mechanics classes, but those are all part of our career and tech ed program. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our time so this is our time for our USD 495 quick fact that we always go over. So at USD 495, we're proud to offer over 70 career and technical education courses across middle school and high school. Over the past 2 years, we've had 60 new courses that have been added for our students to help prepare them for the future careers. And then we also have a partnership through Barton County Community College that we offer dual credit classes, some of those including a CNA course. And additionally, 25 students participate in some of our work-based learning activities for local businesses in town, or through our own student-led t-shirt shop. So and we also have 4 CTE-related student organizations. So it's great ways for our students to explore, connect to future careers. I know our students that help film this activity and film this podcast are part of the career and tech ed side. So it's a great opportunity for our students to get some of those career opportunities. So in getting back into our conversation, are there specific activities or projects that you've developed that you found has really brought welding to the real world experiences for students?
Yeah, we've done quite a few smaller scale projects. Last year we built a bus stop shelter, and that was the first big thing we have built. And for a lot of the students, getting the help on that, and even if they were more of the beginner welders and they're still practicing welds, seeing that be built out of a pile of metal kind of like struck a bell with them. They realized, wow, you can really make things that actually turn out to be something, rather, instead of just small projects. So I think in doing that really showed them what could be done. And then it also got kids dreaming about, well, we helped build that, we could build something else, and just kind of got the wheel turning. And it led to a lot of kids asking more questions and asking, well, can I build this, can I build that, because they seen that it wasn't hard to do. You just had to plan it out and get it done.
Yeah, had to have some preparation to get things going, but then they're able to see that final result. And I've heard some of those same things when students have the opportunity to build those large scale projects. I know some schools have built huge trailers and stuff like and usually, and that's, some do that on a yearly basis. Right. It's an annual project every year, but when they get to see that final project, it kind of shows what their hard work did for them.
Yes, it's rewarding for the teachers and the students.
Yeah. So, in looking at, talked about some projects and large scale things that have taken place. Looking back to in the previous 2 years or even this year, are there any particular students or success stories that kind of just stand out as examples of how powerful hands-on opportunities and more of a hands-on learning environment can be?
I have a couple of the seniors that graduated last year are furthering their education by going to a actual welding college, and that was kind of one thing because both of them had talked about maybe doing it. Like when I first started, I had them both in welding last year and the year prior. And then once they kind of got that taste for it and that drive, and they realized they were doing things, they realized they were doing more welds, different techniques. And then that was kind of like, it really made me proud because it was like, well, I helped set these two up for their future and what they are planning on making a career out of. And I mean, it was very rewarding for me knowing that, I helped be that spark in their life.
Yeah. And probably a couple of those students, I remember back to it myself, and Alyssa, we visited with all of the seniors last year. And that last week that they were in school, we had breakfast with groups of about 10 or 12 seniors, and there were some seniors in those meetings talking about it, because I asked them, what are your future plans? What are some things you're looking forward to? Are you entering the workforce? Are you going to some type of post-secondary schooling or vice versa? And there were some that said we're going off to a welding school and stuff. And so then I kind of prodded them a little bit. Right. Is that something that you would have chosen? Is that something, since your freshman year has been something you've really been looking at? And they were like, no, it wasn't really something I even looked into until I took that first welding class with Mr. Apley. That really got that to be something I was excited about, and then it just kind of built, and hopefully that's a career that they can find and gives them a good living. So looking at that, for students that are interested in, welding or any of those similar trades, what areas do you think they should focus on to prepare themselves for that future success in more of a labor field?
Well, a big thing is it starts with your attendance at school. Because if you're going to work a job, you got to make it to the job. And, that's something I stress to my students. If you're not here, you miss out. And, it's just plain and simple. And also good grades in every class. Some kids can get the mindset, I'm going to go do something with my hands. I'm going to do a physical job. I'm going to be a welder. And maybe I don't need to be good at math or English. And we'll do some math in class, figuring out angles and stuff. And they're like, well, how'd you know that? And I said, well, I learned it right here in Larned High School. I was like, geometry is a big thing for welding. You got to be able to read. You got to be able to understand blueprints. So everything of the high school, it all combines to make you more successful in whatever your endeavors are. And, I think a lot of the kids are kind of realizing that being a mechanic, being a welder just doesn't mean you're going and doing it. It's everything that you learn.
And you talked about being on time and the attendance side of it. Obviously, I think you've probably had opportunities to visit with some of our students, or when some of the technical colleges come in. I'm just thinking of Northwest or North Central Technical College up in Beloit, when they start talking in their different programs about how much they're a little bit different than a traditional college by they have a start and an end time every single day, and it's more or less like being on the job compared to some other college environments. Can you elaborate anything that you've heard on that side?
Well, yeah, and it's very much like that. Next week, actually, we're going to have a representative from Missouri Welding Institute come and to my classroom and shop, and he talks about that. You can only miss so many hours at their school, and you're out of the program. It's very strict, but they're really striving for their kids to make the choice to be a good employee as well as a good welder. And yeah, like college I went to the same way. It was extremely strict at Wyotech. We could miss 21 hours each 3 months, and that was it. Or we had to retake the program and repay for it.
Yeah, I think when people think of maybe your traditional colleges and where it's a little bit different schedule and you're on your own, those technical colleges are a little bit more structured and they're very work related.
Yes, they're training.
Is training you to be ready. So in the last little segment here, some staff shout outs. I wanted to recognize our building leadership teams at each one of our attendance centers who last week participated in a professional development session. And those members are Brady Keith, Amy Wilson, Chad Irway, Adam Houston, Jennifer Fitzpatrick, Kyle Leroy, Carolyn Zook, Barb King, Lucia Hagerman, Wendy Sundahl, Janae Finger, Liz McDonald, Ashley Crosby, Jennifer Mick, Angie Oliveira, Haley Dix, Shana Garing, Carrie Sletter, Jared Gingrich, Kathy DeMond, and Julie Strasberg, and also our building administrators. They participate in some leadership in our visible learning program. So these dedicated group continue to lead the way in advancing that teaching and learning practices that we're working on. So we're grateful for that group and for all of our teachers that have embraced that new journey with teaching and learning this year. And it's already, we're seeing an impact. So their commitment does not go unnoticed. So, as we get back to our conversation, looking forward to the remainder of this year, are there any projects, plans that you're especially excited for our students to get the opportunity to participate in?
Yes. Right now, we are currently working on a couple different things in the shops. We just had a couple little 8N Ford tractors donated for the mechanics program. And the kids, if having them in the shop, they're kind of excited about it. And hopefully we get them running sooner than later. They are going to be a bit of a project. And we are also working on a shelter type roof that'll be at Jordan Ball Field to go over the bleachers that are up there, the shorter bleachers. That way it can put some shade on them so that during softball season it's a little bit nicer. And that's another fairly large project. We have it laid out on the floor and been started welding. And it's another one of those big visuals for the kids that are seeing, wow, we're making something big. And it's the largest thing we've made so far. And it's going to be good. And there's a lot of small project kids are wanting to build. And I'm always open to anything, but I just tell them they got to have a drawing, they got to have a plan, or they got to show me some good pictures to scale.
Yeah.
And it's pretty neat, yes.
And, you're talking about some of those large-scale projects, but just I think students get that opportunity to see that they made an impact on something. And I know one of the new things this year at our board meetings, each one of our board members has a month that they're dividing out, just something they recognize within any of our buildings, student activities, things that they've noticed. And last month at our October board meeting, our board member Tyson Steffen was his month to recognize. I know, and he pointed out and recognized the work that your students did in getting some of the wrought iron painted around our athletic complex, getting that stuff, and then some of our orange parking posts and stuff like that. So just that giving back mentality, I think, goes a long way, and it's something, and especially walking into at the Iron Gate, I think was something that was that looked good, and I think was noticeable by a lot of people this year.
Yeah, it turned out very good, and that it took a lot of work on the students' parts, but I think once they were done, they realized what we were working to do and the difference it made.
So in an ideal world, if you're thinking large scale, what would you like your program, either on the welding side or even on the mechanic side, ideal world, to look like in the next 2, 3, 4 years from now?
Well, what I'm hoping for, especially the welding side, I do have more welding classes in mechanic. So what I would love to do is be able to come up with some different projects that we could build together. Kids could either partner up and whatnot. and then possibly have some things that we could sell, you know, and then it could put money right back into the program. Some schools build small trailers, some build signs, all sorts of stuff, boot scrapers, and getting some things like that, you know, might end up around the town, that when they're just driving around, they see something, hey, I think I made that. And, you know, then it's a lasting impression on them too, and realizing that, you know, with metal, you're making something for life. It'll never go away.
Yeah. So, you know, if there's one thing that you hope your students remember or, you know, carry from them with their time in your program, what would you say that would be?
Well, I hope they remember how to weld, because I've explained it. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you master riding a bike, you can have not rode one for 30 years and you can get back on it. Welding's the same thing. So, you know, I'm hoping they retain some skills for life, whether they go on to be a welder or go to school. And then I also hope that they just remember that they did have fun in doing it, you know, because I'm kind of a jokester and my kids know it, and sometimes they'll get me wound up, but, you know, hopefully they remember high school as a fun time and making some cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of those industries that is, I remember when I was an assistant principal in charge of career and tech ed, that was one of the things in our high school we were really big on was revamping our welding program and getting it more, because in Kansas it's an industry that that has a huge workforce demand, and there's different niches, and then if people don't want to stay in Kansas, they can. We had one student that ended up going to Florida and ended up doing underwater welding, was really their kind of niche that they found after. So it's one of those things that it is a workforce that is in high regard, in high demand.
Yes, it is.
In a lot of different areas.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, Adam, I think to double back to, we talked earlier and how the huge recognition is to be the district staff member of the month, which in the month of October. But I also think the bigger thing is hearing the impact, you know, from students and hearing, you know, how valuable those learning opportunities are within your classroom, and when students, you know, hey, it's something that has led me to choose a post-secondary opportunities. I think those are key sentiments to what you're providing as an educator, and I think we're lucky to have you in the district helping educating our students. So it was great having an opportunity to visit with you a little bit here on this week's podcast, and keep up the great work and stuff inside your program.
All right. Well, thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So just to give everybody a little heads up, our next episode we'll look into and provide a little bit, and I talked about it during our staff shout out in regards to the professional development, professional learning that we've had. We're going to get into a little deep dive into what that professional learning is, that our staff's going through, that's called visible learning. So be on the lookout for that. So to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We're always eager to hear your suggestions for any other future guests. Send those our way. But until next time, continue to show your Larned pride, and go Indians.